Welcome to the FiPL Farm Diaries, brought to you by the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority. FiPL stands for Farming in Protected Landscapes, a programme funded by Defra that helps farmers and land managers in England's national parks and national landscapes access funding for projects supporting climate, nature, people and place. In each episode, we'll dig into a particular part of a project that's received FiPL funding. And while we focus on one theme at a time, every story is part of a much bigger picture, showing how these projects and people are working together to shape the future of farming in the Yorkshire Dales landscape. Join us as we meet the people making a difference and discover how farming in protected landscapes is delivering for the Dales, one story at a time.
Good morning and welcome to the second episode of the FiPL Farm Diaries. In the last episode, we heard about getting started with rotational and mob grazing. Now, of course, a big barrier for a lot of farmers in doing that is the water situation. So in this episode, we're going to hear from 3 farmers who have used a FiPL grant to put in alternative water sources where they need them. The first farmer that we're going to speak to is Alan Robinson up in Orton. His landlord, Kate Blue, used a FiPL grant to put in a solar-powered water pump and water bladder so that Al could mob graze and bale graze his herd of Belted Galloway cattle.
I'm Alan Robinson. I'm farming on a share farm up at Raisbeck, which is just outside Orton. So we're in Cumbria, but in the Westmorland Dales, a part of the Yorkshire Dales. So we are mob grazing or AMP grazing cattle through a lot of traditional hay meadows, wood pasture and permanent grassland. There's 50 head of cows at the moment to the bull this year. There'll be just over 100 head of stock altogether, cows plus followers, on the land at the moment. So yeah, we mob graze. Cows are outwintered on bale grazing and deferred grass. So everything we do is all about grass growth, grass, and just keeping cows moving, basically.
Thanks for joining me in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales. At least it's not raining now. We're at a block of land that you farm. Kate Blue owns it and you farm it, correct?
Correct.
So this episode is all about solar pumps and getting water to where it needs to be. So my understanding is that Kate put a big block of woodland in and so therefore needed to create some kind of water system that could feed the various bits of fields and everything. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So everything this size wood pasture, apart from the 2 middle fields of hay meadows. So as part of the countryside stewardship, the land has to be mob grazed with cattle through the wood pasture.
Yeah.
So to allow that to happen, you need to have a mobile water system.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Brilliant. So there's 4 water bladders, isn't there?
There are, yeah.
Yeah.
It started with 1, 10,000 litres, but we found that it wasn't enough, especially if something happened to the pump. So, yeah, we invested in some more bladders. 2 of them are pretty much turned off all the time.
Yeah.
So they're full, and the other 2 just rise up and down depending on demand.
Yeah. And so then there's your solar panels down at the bottom here, which we've also taken a video of. That just pumps the water straight up. It's a fairly simple system, much like Stephen Crabtree's got.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. So, yeah, there's running water at the bottom. The solar panels catch whatever sunlight there might be.
Yeah.
And they feed batteries, and the pump comes on a timer. So I think at the moment it's on every hour, just to try and maximise what sunlight there is.
Yeah.
So it comes on 15 minutes every hour, and then it pumps water to the top of the hill in those trees, and then it's gravity fed everywhere that we need it to go from there.
Brilliant. And the troughs are movable.
Yes. Yeah.
Are they easily movable?
Depends how strong you are. No. So one of the troughs is like a booster, a Bob Booster trough.
Yeah.
So that's like half an IBC on skids. If there's a lot of sats on them with the main group of cattle, the other ones are just the Kiwi Tech plastic troughs. So they're really easy to just drag around with the quad. But all of them come around with the quad bike.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else.
Yeah. And that'll make a huge difference because like you've got it really well set up now. You can see all your bales laid out for winter and everything. You really manage the grazing, don't you, on this patch? So
yeah,
to be able to move it with it.
Yeah, that's it. Like you can't mob graze really without it. You always have to have a backup. So I'm always conscious that if things do freeze, we do have a beck that they can go to.
Yeah.
But I try and minimise how much time they spend down there.
Yeah.
Just to try and keep the banks clean
and that's
clear.
the only other source of water, the beck.
That's it. Yeah. So this whole block of near enough 200 acres, that was the only water source before the bladder was put in.
Yeah.
So before the pump there was nothing else. There was a few troughs dotted around, but they're all dry. So yeah, there was no other source of being able to actually mob graze it.
So Kate has said one of the benefits that she's noticed is that there's way less poaching near the watercourse.
Yep.
And also, with you being able to bale graze now through the winter, she has seen more flora, basically. You've been feeding species-rich hay, so that's a massive benefit.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
So where the bales were rolled out last year, it was a lot less managed than it is this year. So the bales was ad hoc. I basically took the bales to the cows last year.
Right, yeah.
With a bale and roller, so it was much less managed to what it'll be this year. But you can still see patches where there's clover and plantain.
Where you've rolled it out, that's amazing, yeah.
And that wasn't very good hay last year either because it's quite wet.
And that's just after one rollout.
Yeah,
that's amazing, isn't it?
I'm really hoping that with this big block of bales this year, we'll really see a difference in the diversity of the pasture.
Yeah.
And that's, I think this year in particular, we've started to see reduction in thistles because there are still quite a lot, but they're definitely thinned out a bit.
Yeah.
But there's been a huge amount of butterflies, a huge amount of moths, and massive sort of groups of goldfinch.
Oh, right.
Flocks of goldfinch. Massive. Is it a flock or a group?
A lot of them.
Yeah, the goldfinches in the autumn. So it's been really good to see a lot of different bird species.
Brilliant. It just goes to show, doesn't it, what having. I think it's a thing that puts a lot of people off in the Dales, the water situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even people that just shut gates and use dry stone walls as their paddocks. You can't do that if you haven't got water in that field, can you? So it's amazing to have those bladders, but also the movable troughs, because when we spoke to Stephen Crabtree, he's done a very similar thing. His troughs weren't movable, so it's good to see a different take on it. So in the first episode, you remember landlord-tenant duo Stephen Crabtree and Michael Thwaite. So they obviously utilised a FiPL grant to split a parcel of land up with electric fences and hedges. In this episode, we're going to hear Stephen talk about how he managed the water situation.
My name's Stephen Crabtree. I farm at Bolton Park Farm with my wife and hopefully soon to be my son in partnership. And we farm beef and sheep on a tenanted farm at Bolton Abbey. Today, we'll be referring to some land that we own at Orton near Malham, which we let out to a current tenant of Michael Thwaite, a young aspiring chap who is wanting to get on in life, and we thought it was a good way to try and help him.
Right, let's talk about your solar pumps then, because they sound like a bit of a game changer. One of the things that a lot of people say to me is that they struggle to rotational graze because of where the water is and that, they can't get to water. So tell us a little bit about, how it works, because I would say it's a fairly novel thing.
Yeah. Well, we contacted a chap called Jim Beery, who was in with the Past Useful Life. You get a mentor. And Jim Beery had farmed down near Sheffield, and he'd moved up to Orton Hall near Penrith. I think he's recently given up the farm up there. And Michael and I went to see Jim, and he told us all about these pumps and the company to use, etc., etc. And basically, if I can just turn the clock back a bit, in the early mid-20s, 2015, I think, we did two schemes, two woodland schemes, 2015 and 2017, I think they were, where we planted approximately 70 acres of ground, which was basically gill holes, steep-sided gill holes with trees. And as a course of that, as a result of that, of course, we fenced off a lot of natural water courses. So with that scheme, we'd actually installed quite a lot of water troughs, but we were running off Thwaites' surplus supply, spring supply.
Yep.
And I always felt a little bit uneasy that Thwaites had first call, naturally, because we were getting the overflow. And what would happen in a dry time, if it fell short, we would have an awful lot of stock without water. Well, not us personally, but whoever was farming it. So that was one driver, and the second driver was, of course, the FiPL grant we could actually tap into. And so it was a fairly logical decision in the end that we needed more water into the fields, into the paddocks. How to get it there? Jim Beery and the company that he'd used came up with the answer. And basically, there's 6 solar panels, a pump which takes the water out of the stream, and then pumps it directly into this bladder tank at the highest point, and everything's fed off there with battery storage. And so basically it'll probably only run 15 minutes every hour.
Right.
And of course, then there's non-return valves. There's systems in place where the bladder won't get overfilled. If it's full, it stops, etc., etc. And generally speaking, it works well. We have had one or two issues this summer with it being dry and the flow of water's not being great, but we've got plans afoot just to tweak one or two things to make it better.
Yeah. And I went to Jim's when he was at Sheffield, and it's like a big bouncy castle, isn't it? That's what it looks like.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. Just looks like a big bouncy castle. Yeah. So that's a game changer, isn't it? Really, when you can get water to where you couldn't do before. Yeah. And do you mind telling me what percentage of the cost of that the FiPL grant contributed?
It was roughly 50%.
Right. So a good chunk of it then. Yeah.
And the water troughs and installation of the pipes, etc. That was all at countryside stewardship costs.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Standard costs, whatever they did. Yeah.
Now this might be a stupid question, but how much in a country where it can rain all summer, how much sun do they need to work? Is it, have they worked?
The myth is that they need sunshine, and we've actually had solar panels at home for the last 14 years, and it's just the intensity of light.
Right.
That's all it is. It's the intensity of light. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So they don't need sunshine. They just need daylight. Basically. Yeah. And we accept. Well, let's be honest. Through winter, the actual demand for water, because it will only be sheep through water, will be very little.
Yeah.
And obviously, when it's sunshiny, in summer is when they should need the water, and that's hopefully when the pump's working better.
Yeah.
Or working to its capacity anyway.
So, what would you say to other farmers that are thinking about applying for FiPL funding?
Yeah, it can be an arduous process. There's good help. With a lot of help from Laura Mealing at the Yorkshire Dales National Park at Grassington. She was wonderful. When I talk to people about it, I always say the big thing about it is that if you apply for it we applied for the fencing, then we applied for the tanks, and everything was itemised, probably 16 sections. And as you work through it, you can actually claim grant for that. So it helps on cash flow. But no, the process works well.
Yeah, I spoke to a farmer yesterday that said the Yorkshire Dales National Park staff were really, really helpful.
I can't sing the praises enough.
So the third and final farmer that we're going to speak to is Bill Ousby. Bill's slightly different to the other two because his pump is electric and not solar powered. His original water source was down in the bottom of a gill. It was a beck, but it was a triple SI was that gill. So when the national parks wanted to fence that off, obviously to protect it, Bill had to figure out a new way of getting water across to that parcel of land.
Hello, I'm Bill Ousby. I farm at Newbigin-on-Loon near Kirby Stephen. We're quite remote, quite on the hilltop. We farm sheep, hill sheep and beef cattle. We put 600 sheep and 100 cattle, usually.
Right, Bill. So this episode then is about alternative water sources, and you've put a pump in. Just tell us what made you apply for a FiPL grant. Tell us the backstory to that, if you could.
I was approached by Yorkshire Dales wanting to fence off a certain area of Smardale Gill, which we have grazing upon, because it's in an SSI. The gill itself is a very, very steep banking. It spreads out onto a field much bigger at the top, about 50 acres in all. So, there's 2 or 3 acres in the gill that very steep, quite inaccessible, but it's down that gill where the water supply was. There was a beck in the bottom, which is a very flashy beck, and when it comes up, it's quite rapid. Therefore, the water gates at either end were a problem from time to time. And because it's so inaccessible, it was very difficult to repair. The stock generally didn't go for water unless they were desperate. The sheep, it wasn't quite such a problem. The cattle, well, it took them a while before they got to going for it on a regular basis down a rough track to it. So when the Yorkshire Dales came and suggested fencing it off to keep the livestock off that area, to protect the trees and the plants in that SSI, I said, well, that will do away with the water supply completely. So I really need to have something in to replace it. So this is when they came up with this idea that through a FiPL grant that I could get funding toward helping to put the water supply up there. So that's where we decided to go.
Brilliant. And the pump, then you said it's an electric pump. Just talk us through how it works.
Yeah. Well, initially we were looking at a ram pump, which a ram pump is what I was suggested to go for. A ram pump uses an awful lot of water to actually pump a very little bit of water. So there's an awful lot of water going to waste. So when I was going to be using mains water, it's all to pay for.
Yes.
Which it's expensive enough as it is without wasting any. So I said, well, we can't really go down the route of the ram pump. So we said, what about electric pump? And work it from this end, from the farm. And yes, that was acceptable.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not cheap, and it's taken a bit of organising and fitting, and finding the right people to oversee the project. There isn't that many people as understanding on that type of work. So actually nailing somebody down to come and plan it out with me and organise it wasn't quite so simple, really. No, because there's just so few of them.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of them aren't used to working on this terrain, and also, you as you say, you're high up here, aren't you? Like,
yeah.
So so I misunderstood then. I thought you were pumping it out of the gill, but you're not. You're
No.
It's on the mains water.
So
how many did you put troughs in as part of your FiPL bid as well?
Yeah.
FiPL grant. Yeah. How many troughs have you got?
I have one trough at the moment. I'm going to put an extension and put another trough to it because there's quite sufficient water to do 2 troughs, and the field itself really wants 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your stock will be pleased, I bet, not having to traipse down the gill. It will keep it easy.
Absolutely. Yes, this last summer, when it's been up and working, it's been noticeably better.
Yeah.
For the sheep especially, but the cattle before they would go to the beck, but it just saves them the trip of toddling down. Yeah.
Do you have it running all the time? You'll be able to turn it on and off, will you? Like in winter, if there's heavy rainfall and what have you?
Yeah, we have it turned off at present.
Yeah.
Because sort of end of October right through till end of March, it'll not be required basically. There should be enough water for whatever stock's up there during that time, because it's winter time. It's usually wet season.
Yeah.
They don't want an amount of water like they do with warm, hot summer days.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot less stock on in winter anyway. There's just a handful of sheep in there sometimes.
Yeah. My next question was going to be, how do you go on? How deep are your pipes buried? Do you struggle with them freezing?
We were initially, people suggested just laying a pipe across the top, which I wasn't too excited about because it's very vulnerable to frost, vulnerable to vehicles, vulnerable to animals, people who want to do silly things with it. So I said, well, for what it was going to cost, we'd dig it in. So I quizzed the commoners, because it was going across the common,
I see,
as well as our own bit of land, to see what they said about it, and they were quite happy to do that. So we have actually dug it in. I was thinking that initially we would actually be able to, what's the word, drag it in.
I know what you mean. With like a mole plough.
Mole plough it in. That was the word. Yeah, I was thinking initially we'd mole plough it in. And to be fair, there was parts of it where maybe could have mole ploughed, but I think 80% of it, it's much too stony.
Yeah.
So I had a lad who helps me. He is a little digger. He came. Yeah, we managed to put 100, 150 metres in per day. I mean, we did it in December, last December. It was a very nice, fine spell, so we were able to crack on. But days are short then.
Yeah, they are.
So we didn't think we did so badly, really, because, as I say, a lot of it was quite stony, almost what you would call rocky at places. But yeah, we dug it out and put the pipe in. We put a sizable pipe in. We were advised to put a sizable pipe in, and by doing that, it would put less pressure and workload on your pump.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put a small pipe, your pump would be working excess all the time, and therefore its lifespan would be reduced.
So how many metres of pipe have you actually put in then, Bill? Because it's a fair way across that common if you had to go all the way over the top.
Yeah, well, we initially got, it was going to be 1,600 metres, but it was a very direct route, was that, and we had to choose our route, of course, because of the steep bits and the rocky pieces.
Yeah.
So we ended up putting 1,700 metres in, which was rather more than we anticipated. But yeah, as I say, there were rocks and things in the place. So
yeah, that's no good, is it? You can't go through rock. But that's a hell of an undertaking, is that, Bill, isn't it? But I suppose now you're in a position where if you wanted to, you could tap into that pipe work to put other troughs in other fields.
Yes. Initially, we've just put 2 troughs for that field at the moment. That was what the project was for. I had the eye on advancing on that one and putting 2 or 3 more troughs to it that would supply other fields. So that was going to be more useful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of water. There's a tank at this end of 5,000 litres.
Yep.
The pump is quite sufficiently strong enough to pump a lot of water in a very short time, to another reservoir tank at the other end of 5,000 litres at that end. So that's quite sufficient to feed 5 troughs, even in a dry time. So I think we're good to go, really. Yeah.